Today I want to talk about a few very common mistakes new pilots make when coming into land. The most common being not using all of the brakes. So let's watch this first clip and then talk about a few things. The first thing I want to talk about is the oscillation. One of the biggest things that you want to make sure you have dialed in when you're coming into land is your approach. A bad landing approach is going to be more likely a bad landing. You want to make sure you have a very clean, straight into the wind, no oscillation, in control, calm, smooth approach. A good landing starts with a good approach. If your approach is messy, chances are the landing will also be messy. Now let's fast forward a little bit to this next spot, which I'll pause here in a second. One thing I want to talk about with this spot right here is how much brake the pilot already has pulled. You can see with his right hand that you probably have, or he probably has, around 6 to 8 inches of brakes pulled. On the left hand, he probably has a very similar amount of brake pulled. What this means is this pilot now has 6 to 8 inches less brake to use for his flare. When he wants to flare for landing and actually use the energy in that wing to slow him down and set him down, he has 6 to 8 inches less of it, which means he's just going to land faster and he's going to land harder, which in this sport, the goal is to land as soft and slow as possible. Now we fast forward a little bit, you can see the oscillation is playing an effect, and let's pause right here. One thing I want to point out with this right here is notice how he is off-centered. He is slanted to the left. The wing is to the left, he is to the right. What that means is as he comes to set down, he is going to come diving down to the left. That is just going to be a harder, more aggressive landing because of that. That right there is a clear example of oscillation. You don't want to have oscillation on landing. It's extremely important that you have that oscillation in control when you come in to land. Now, the next thing I want to point out is how little brake he used on flare. Before, he had about 6 to 8 inches of brake. Now fast forward another few seconds, here we are to touch down for the ground, and he maybe pulled another 6 inches. Those hands should be all the way down, touching his hip, using every last inch of brake. What I see happening for new pilots is they get so fixated on the ground and the fact that they're about to touch down that they forget to use the very thing that's going to soften the landing, aka the brakes. It's very common for new pilots to just not pull as much brake as they should/can. And because of it, it's a hard landing. This pilot here should have punched those hands all the way down trying to touch his legs. And had he done that, it would have softened the landing and slowed the landing down, giving him the opportunity to actually land on his feet. But because he didn't, we can see what happens. This pilot had no other options but to land on their butt because of how fast they were coming down. If he tried to stand it up, it would have just been so much force of him coming down as well as the weight of the motor coming down on him. All of those things combined would have made that landing far too difficult to stand up, which is why his knees buckled and he went right down onto his butt/the frame of the motor. That is a safe landing. The pilot was just fine, and that is okay. However, we're not looking for okay, we're looking for perfect. Okay, let's watch video number 2. One of the first things I want to point out about video number 2 is how the oscillation was better controlled. The oscillation makes a big difference in having a clean approach. Not only does it, or having a clean landing, not only does it increase the amount of flare authority you have, it also makes the landing softer and it makes it slower. So if you want a really nice clean landing, it's important that you have that oscillation under control. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is this pilot is still pulling quite a bit of brake on landing. You can see, or excuse me, on approach, you can see with that right hand, it's still pulling somewhere between 4-6 inches or so of brake. Just like I talked about in the last clip, that is 4 to 6 inches less brake the pilot can use on flare. Now, as we click play and we watch the pilot come in, we can see there's a small balloon before we pause it right here. The pilot, again, just like the previous landing, only pulled about 12 inches of brake. You can see with that left hand right there, there is barely any brakes being pulled. He's got 2 more feet of brake he could be pulling right now, but is not. The other thing to notice, that wing is dipped off to the right. That means he's going to come diving down to the right. That was a small bit of oscillation that hit at the very last second, and he is now going to feel the consequence of that, plus the lack of brake pressure, and we can watch forward and see how he falls right onto his butt. He just did not use anywhere near enough flare authority to set the wing down, set down softly, land comfortably, and land on his feet. Okay, let's watch video number 3. Now, let's talk about the 2 things that really changed in video number 3. First off, did you guys notice how his oscillation control was even better? Funny thing is it really doesn't take a lot of flights to work out all the little mistakes. As long as you have somebody there helping guide you through that, point out the mistakes, even show you video after, which I did with this student after the flights, you can work through those little common mistakes pretty quick. Now, you'll see, right, there was less oscillation. The pilot had the wing under control far more than he did the previous 2 landings. It wasn't rocking him back and forth, and let's click play and watch what happens. Pilot comes in, he's gliding down, nice and straight, right? And he goes to flare, and pause it right here. Look at those hands. Did you see those hands punch all the way down, all the way into the brakes? He used all the flare he had. He used all the brakes he had. He punched them down. He left nothing on the table. He used all of it. And as a result of using all of those brakes, we can watch as he stands up on his feet. Because he used all the brake. You can see him throwing his arms. He was excited about it. He used all that flare authority. He set down on his feet. Couple things, right? Number 1, he had that oscillation under control, so he didn't come diving in slightly sideways on landing. Number 2, he didn't have 6-8 inches of brake already pulled on the approach like he had on the previous ones. And number 3, he used all the brakes on the set down. He did all of the pieces. You can see when you do all the pieces correctly, the landing is very, very easy. It's very easy. It can be a ridiculously soft, almost softer than stepping off a curb kind of feeling. Actually, it is softer. It can be like taking a step if you do it right. If you do it wrong, it's going to be a butt landing. If you do it right, it can be a beautiful step down onto the ground. All right, let's talk about video number 4. So as we watch video number 4, we can see the pilot has that oscillation under control. He's gliding in, he balloons a little bit, and then he just ends up on his butt. Notice this angle right here. If we zoom in on him, you can see he didn't even put his feet below him. So this is a very common thing with new pilots. They think that they're trying to land on their feet. They think that they're doing it. They think, hey, I put my feet down. You didn't. You didn't even try to land on your feet. It can be a very subconscious thing, or it is a subconscious thing, that they're just scared to put their feet down. They're scared to land on their feet because they're gliding in, and they think they're coming in so fast and so hard that your body naturally is just like, whoa, 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 we can't land on our feet. This is too fast. So you just don't even try. One of the things that we talk about so much with our new students as they come into land is, hey man, just commit to those feet. Just absolutely, completely, utterly commit to landing on those feet. And you'd be surprised what happens. If you do commit to landing on those feet, you will. Had he just put his feet down and taken off running, had he actually tried to land in a run, he would have been able to do it. You can see he used the flare. This is after the previous video. He used all the flare authority. The brakes are pulled. You can see the deflection in the back of the wing. He is trying to slow himself down. He just didn't put his feet down and start moving. The actual landing was a very soft. It was fast, but it was soft. Had he put his feet down and run, he would have been able to stand that up. Let's talk about video number 5. As this pilot is coming in to land, we can see there's not a lot of oscillation. He has the oscillation, for the most part, under control, but let's point something out right here. Notice how high he is. He is easily, what, 6 feet off the ground, maybe more? I could probably stand underneath him at 5'9", which don't make fun of me for being 5'9". But the point of what I'm saying is he is ballooning up. This is another very common mistake that new pilots make because, like the committing on the feet, you're scared of the ground. You're coming in a lot faster than you think you should be. You're really not coming in that fast, but you're coming in faster than you think you should be. So your instinct as you're getting closer is to like hit the brakes and fly away from the ground. But you can see if you pull brakes at 5 feet, 6 feet, now when you go to flare, you're gonna basically drop 5 feet off the ground and fall onto the ground from 5 feet, which you're just not going to be able to stand that up with a motor on comfortably, and people can roll ankles if you do that. It's important that you do not balloon as you come in for landing. As we hit play and we watch farther, there's something else to notice right here. Notice that he is now diving off to the left. You want to know why? If you look at his left hand, it is lower than his right hand. So this is a common mistake as well. If somebody is right hand dominant or dominant in their right hand or dominant in their left hand, you will usually pull more with your dominant hand. So this particular pilot is now pulling more brake with his left hand, which is causing him to dive down to the left. Just like oscillation, if you pull a little bit more of one brake than the other brake, that dive is just going to put you into the ground faster and harder. So when you go to flare, it's important that you do a very smooth, linear, same on both sides flare. If you pull more with one hand than the other hand, that's just going to lead to a faster, harder, more unpleasant landing. We hit play, we see him come down. Right here, we have most all of the brake pulled. He's got pretty much all of it. There's probably another maybe 6 inches, which 6 inches can make a big difference. We all know 6 inches is a lot. Don't leave 6 inches of brake when you need it, especially when you dive yourself down to the side. We hit play and we see him fall to his knees. The reason he fell to his knees is it was just too fast for him to stand it up. It's just too much energy coming into the ground because of that dive and because he didn't use those 6 inches of brake. So it was kind of the combo punch of those two things. Pilot, of course, was just fine. We got up, we flew again, and these are just the mistakes new pilots make. Now let's watch video number 6. We can see the pilot, same one as the last time, is coming in with a nice glide slope, no oscillation, everything is looking good. He puts his feet down and he actually tries to run, but if you look at how much brake he has pulled right now, it is not a lot. Same mistake that the previous pilot was making, this pilot did not use the flare. It was one of those pieces that got neglected in his brain. He didn't use the brake. And you can watch as we hit play, and he just kind of sinks down into the ground. He ran. You'll notice he actually ran. He put his feet down and ran. Had he flared, even during that run, he would have been able to stand it up. But he didn't use the brake. He didn't pull the brake. You saw he only had 6 inches of flare authority, or 6 inches to 12 inches of brake pulled. There's no way you're going to land with only 6-12 inches of brake. It's just not happening. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're interested in learning how to fly a paramotor, visit our website, Backcountry PPG, for additional information. If you're looking to make an equipment purchase, whether wing, motor, or accessory, we'd love if you'd consider us for your next purchase. Thank you for watching again, and we'll see you in the next video.